Hello and welcome to the first ever podcast by The Casual Thinker. This is a philosophical podcast where we kind of just chat about a lot of philosophy topics and stuff like that. By the way, my name is Ishmael, and today I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about my granddad. Normally for this podcast, we try and keep it lighthearted, like you're talking, around the campfire with your mates or something like that. But to start it off, to kick it off, why not make it a little bit darker than what it needs to be, I guess. Um, I kind of want to talk about my granddad because this has been playing a little bit on my mind recently. I never got to mourn my granddad. Not in a way, not in a bad way where like, oh, I never really got over, him passing away. More of the fact that I never knew my granddad, which makes it very hard to mourn him. If you don't know someone, how could you mourn them? But when he did when he did pass, it was very strange because the thought of not having a granddad, that made me upset. Seeing, this is my granddad from my dad's side. Seeing my dad, a very stoic man, a very, he only has two feelings, which one is just casual and another one's happy. He doesn't show more emotions than that really. It wasn't very nice to me seeing, someone else go through mourning. But for me, I feel like I was almost robbed of that mourning, which sounds a bit strange because no one really wants to go through mourning. Um, but in a weird way, I feel like I wanted to. And the reason why I feel like that is because I never got to know my granddad. He lives in Guinea-Bissau. Both my parents are Guinea-Bissau, but I was born in Portugal, and now live in the UK. So it's very hard to go back is to see my uncles, my grandparents, my cousins, and you know, during COVID, that's the only time I was able to go to Guinea-Bissau and make a real memory of my granddad. This trip was because there was not a long time left. My parents knew that, and you know wanted to go see him. This is the only time, now or never, really. And it has now made me think like I wish I did know him a lot better so I could have gone through mourning. He's a great guy, and I feel like it sounds very strange for me to say that I wanted to go through mourning. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but I feel like what I perceive mourning as is, just loads and loads of those memories that you've made with that certain person, and knowing the fact that you're not able to make any more memories of them. I feel like that is to me what I perceive as mourning. Like the fact that they're no longer with you and stuff like that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know if you can be wrong with that. I think maybe other people who maybe have gone through mourning, maybe they see it a different way. You know, I know someone who was close and he's gone through mourning, and I knew that he's kind of just angry at the world, angry at the universe. Why does life have to end and stuff like that? But I feel like that brings up a very philosophical question. Why does it have to end and stuff like that? Which is very deep for our first one. I'm gonna be honest with you, but I read this quote somewhere. I'm gonna have to search this up, but life is only meaningful because it ends. I feel like knowing the fact that you don't have all the time in the world to make memories with someone is what makes life worth living. You could say, oh, I'm gonna do this with that other person, 2 days from now, whatever, but you don't know how long you have until someone passes or something happens. And this is so stereotypical of like philosophy and stuff, being like, oh, you don't know what time, how long you have in the world and stuff like that. So YOLO, live whatever, like live to your fullest content because you don't know what's going to happen. But even though that sounds so cringy or whatever, I find that so, that is the truth. I think that is the truth. I feel like the meaning of life. This is so crazy to be getting into the meaning of life on the first episode of the first podcast. But I feel like the meaning of life is to make memories. Is to make memories, with loved ones, with stuff like that. Because at the end of the day, when someone passes, that's all you have of them. And that's why I feel a little bit robbed, knowing that my granddad passed away and not being able to mourn for him because I had no memories of him. There was no other time where I made a genuine memory with my granddad. And I feel like that is what life is worth living for. However, saying that, I do also know that, like, while I was writing this up, while I was making some notes for this episode, I was thinking, I've heard so much of my granddad, so many stories of my granddad from people who knew him. My dad has talked about him, my mum has talked about him, and I feel like that is such an amazing thing, the memory, the fact that I know how good of a man he was, and I had no idea. Me personally, I made no genuine memories, no like proper memories of him. And I think that's great because it kind of reminds me of that Disney movie. I think it's named Coco. I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to do my research on that. But it talks about how you have two, deaths, where one of them you die in real life, but the other one is when the last person, knows you, or the last person who says your name or something like that. And I think that's a really cool way of looking at it. Me personally, I don't know what happens after you die, but I feel like that is so cool, where, they live on in memory. They live on in other people's memories. And in a way, that is true. I know my granddad a lot more now when he's not around than I did before. So, bringing it back to say, life is only precious because it ends. I think that is such a cool way to looking at it, because you never know how long you have left with someone. And I feel like taking the time every single day to say to your loved one, I love you, I'm always here for you, let's do this, let's do that. I feel like that is what, you should be living for, because one day, hopefully not soon, they might not be here. And that is what makes, living in the moment so special, because they're right here, right now. Let's do something cool. Let's do something together. And I feel like I live every day trying to, think about that. That's all I've wanted to say, really. And if you're gonna take anything from today, is that life is only meaningful because it ends. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed this little ramble of a video. If you did, go check out the website, like and subscribe, all of that good stuff, really. And I'll see you in the next one. You never know.